What's up, y'all? This is Jules, Jessie with Clapback Culture, here for another Friday Eve show. What's up, y'all? Mike Davis will be joining us shortly. You guys know, I don't know what's up with Mike Davis, y'all. We're going to have to start cutting some money from his check. But how are you guys doing? It's good to see you. Dora, thank you for sharing. Look who's here. I'm killing people time. No less.
You know I'm going to pull up. You know I'm going to pull up.
You said I'm late, but I'm here. Amen.
But I'm ready. And I'm ready too, man. We got a lot tonight. It's going to be a good night.
You do. I mean, I'm excited and we do got a lot to cover. We might as well jump into it because I don't want to lose no time to talk about these topics. So you ready?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, y'all. So some childish news coming out of Alabama. They cleared a plan to use COVID-19 relief funds to build not one, not two, but 3 new prisons in the state of Alabama. And also, the governor there is claiming that some of the prisons there will be reformed. The legislation opened a special session on Monday to consider a $1.3 billion construction plan to build the 3 prisons and renovate the others. And of the funding, the state would use $400 million of its allocation from the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. That's the plan that Joe Biden put out, y'all. So this drew a lot of backlash from Democrats who say that the corona relief funds should be used for COVID. I mean, but they want to put it into more prisons. What's going on?
I mean, I don't even know how we even explain this. I mean, they're literally using COVID relief funds to build 3 prisons, to renovate a bunch of other prisons. And then Governor Kay Ivey comes out publicly and calls this reform. She called it criminal justice reform. How is building extra prisons to house more people and to literally contribute to mass incarceration? That's not reform. That's the opposite of reform, especially right now when we're looking at COVID and the effects of this pandemic are still lingering. I mean, you got a lot of people who are out here still committing crimes due to poverty. So instead of using the COVID relief funds to help these people who are living in poverty, instead, you're going to build more prisons to house them. Man, this is ridiculous. I will never, ever stop being shocked by things that happen in the South with these Southern governors. My goodness. How do you justify this?
Bro, and we're not even talking about a drop in the bucket. We're talking about $400 million. And you're right. This label that they're putting on it, that this is a part of criminal justice reform. This ain't no criminal justice reform. You do not build a prison here in America without it getting filled. And so what we are doing is now we're creating more criminals, right? We're creating more space for these prisons to generate more revenue. And another thing for people who don't really understand our prison system, it is not meant for rehabilitation. Nobody's going to put in another investment into the prison. They don't invest in the prison. Their investment is in the people. They want to get people because that is the way that they're going to generate revenue. They need bodies to fill those beds. And so if we were really talking about reforming, the criminal justice system, we'd be talking about creating more opportunities for returning citizens. We'd be talking about creating more opportunities for low-income households so that they can become homeowners. We'd be putting substantial investments into medical facilities because it's still COVID, right? I mean, there's still a Delta variant going on. People still ain't vaccinated. I believe the state of Alabama still doesn't have a vaccine mandate. So people are still sick. People are still dying. And you talking about you want to use $400 million of COVID relief money to go in to build not one, not two, but 3 prisons? Man, y'all playing. That's all right. But you know what, Mike? There's also another thing called Unicor that you probably haven't heard of, because unless you have somebody who's incarcerated, I mean, you just don't really know about this. But guess what? Your good sis right here, she's woke. Unicor makes it possible to have real human slaves. And so you have these prisoners, these inmates who do everything for the facilities. They're doing landscaping, they're doing the construction, they're doing the piping, they're doing the cooking, they're doing the cleaning, they're doing the shucking, and they're doing the jiving. Okay. So you think they're going to take this 400 million and you think they're going to put it into rehab or getting new officers or putting in more counselors or more medical personnel? You ain't gonna get it. You holding your breath. So this is a horrible plan. But you know what? Great PR. Great
Hey,
PR.
you hit the nail on the head. And my final thought here is, this reminds me of the guy that we talked about on this show who did the PPE scams that's about to go to prison, and all the other folks that I'm sure we know who was out here running these little individual scams here and there. They're all gonna go to jail for that. Yet the state of Alabama gets to scam with these funds, because make no mistake, this is a scam. If you're going to use COVID relief funds for this is a scam. And it's totally legal. And that, in a nutshell, is America.
This is America. You know what else is America? The state of California is actually doing some things to hopefully make more returning citizens. And so we love this. California is going to end their mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders with a new bill, y'all, called SB 73. So here's what happens with this legislation. It will give judges the power to sentence individuals to probation rather than serving time behind bars for nonviolent drug offenses, such as small possessions of heroin. Let's put a little asterisk on small, and I'll get into that in a second. The bill was passed on Tuesday, and it'll go into effect on January. And this is the fourth attempt that state legislators try to push through this proposal. So this is good. Mike, what are your thoughts here? I think this is good with some caveats for sure.
No, I think it's good too. And I'm going to use this for a shameless plug. But if you're in Seattle, I got 3 letters for you. NTK. If we get NTK in office, this is the type of stuff we could see in the city of Seattle. She's running for city attorney on a platform that includes decriminalizing crimes that are based and rooted in poverty. So shout out to Cali. I love that they did this. This is going to be a major blow in rolling back this war on drugs that really turned into nothing but mass incarceration. So yes, kudos to Cali, big ups to Governor Newsom, but we got a chance right here in Seattle to do something similar. So anybody in Seattle, man, NTK, look her up. I'm really trying to see if I could do a story on her with the Emerald, because she's trying to do some really dope stuff to change how we look at criminal justice and who the quote unquote criminals are, and the different ways that we can go about not filling our jails the way they're about to do in Alabama.
Man, listen. Well, maybe we need to get NTK up on the show. So if you guys want to see that, if you guys would like to see us interview NTK and talk about some criminal justice reform and what her call to action is, I think that would be dope to have her. But I'm happy about this legislation, no less. I do feel that a lot of other states, and really for real, we just need to make this into a federal mandate. Like, we need to push this. Nonviolent offenders deserve a second chance. I mean, that's why they're considered nonviolent. You know what I'm saying? And so we're seeing a lot of people go behind bars for a long period of time, 5, 10, 15, 20 years for nonviolent offenses. I know a gentleman who actually just came home from doing a 25-year bid for possession of marijuana. And that's possession of marijuana. Yeah. And even, but here's my thing, right? And I said I was going to mention like the ashtray. To me personally, it doesn't matter. Like, what defines a small amount of heroin versus a large amount of heroin? What's a large amount of marijuana versus a small amount of marijuana? At the end of the day, it's still a nonviolent offense. So if I'm selling drugs, obviously I'm selling drugs because it's an economic system. I'm looking for a way to generate revenue, or I have a drug addiction. So it's either or. If you're in possession of illegal drugs, whatever the case may be, is still a nonviolent offense. And so we need to not, I think that still is a barrier. Right. And I think if you're not going to be able to make that threshold, I think it leaves a lot of room for interpretation when it comes down to these judges. A nonviolent offense is a nonviolent offense is a nonviolent offense. People who even, who are paper trailers, right, or white collar crimers, for instance, I honestly think, they need the same recommendation and the same kind of consideration, if you will. So those considerations to me need to be federal for sure. But shout out to California for being a leader on this. Mandatory minimums are very discriminatory. And I know that they did not start out like that, but I think with Vice President Kamala Harris coming into office and also Joe Biden coming into office, we see that, this is that 1990, the 1990s crime bill coming back, and they're trying to kind of reverse some of the errors of the past. So yeah, we definitely need to see this change happen for sure. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you guys happy about these?
I gotta speak, man. Look, my Mama Walden, you know it's nothing but love and nothing but respect. But I mean, when I listen to NTK speak, what I hear her saying is that 90% of the folks that she's seen coming through the criminal justice system and ended up in courts in the city of Seattle were doing things like stealing sandwiches because they were hungry. If we could get to a place where people don't got to go to jail because they're hungry and steal a sandwich, then I'm on board for that.
Yeah, Santana, he puts up a note as well. You could steal millions from people, all their life savings, and get less charge than someone stealing dime sacks. Honestly, I would argue that depending on your race, you could, the government can say that you took millions, right? Like maybe the dude with the PPP, like, did he steal millions, or did he do the same thing that the state of Alabama governor did? Like, the way that it's packaged and the way that it's presented is the way that you're going to be criminalized. And so, it's not apples and oranges when it comes down to our criminal justice system, but that's what it is now. So we could talk more on this, but I think we should move on to another hot topic that came out this week. Sage Steele, ESPN SportsCenter's Sage Steele. What a stage name. Is that? I don't even know if this is her real name, but
I don't know.
Anyway, she won't be appearing on SportsCenter this week because she had to apologize for some backlash over some recent comments when she was on NFL quarterback Jay Cutler's podcast. She made some controversial remarks about ESPN's vaccine mandate. She claimed young women bear responsibility if men sexually harass them. And she chided Obama for declaring himself Black on his census form rather than biracial. We have a small clip of her talking about women being responsible for getting sexually harassed by men. Let's play that. We'll come back and we'll talk about everything.
I do think as women, we need to be responsible as well. It isn't just on players and athletes and coaches to act a certain way. I mean, I've had talks with young women who would come in and they'd intern with me, with our channel, or just other women who reach out to me now. And I've said to a couple of them, they're like, well, would you look at my tape? Would you do this? And I've said, listen, I would love to, but the way that you present yourself is not something I want to be associated with.
Yeah.
So when you dress like that,
yeah.
I'm not saying you deserve the gross comments, but you know what you're doing when you're putting that outfit on too.
Yeah.
Like, women are smart. So don't play coy and put it all on the guys and again, I'm not saying anybody deserves anything.
Yes.
But we need to be responsible as women too, because we know what we're doing when we put certain things on and then return a certain text. Or you expect somebody's not going to see you if you go to dinner with this guy? Like, that's on us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so true. And as a society.
Yo, she just said women are asking for it.
Sis is giving very much Candace Owens. She's giving very much Stacey Dash, and I don't like it.
And you know what's funny though, Julia?
Yeah.
I watched this whole interview. It's over an hour, but in the interview, Jay Cutler. So for those who don't know, this is Jay Cutler's podcast. He was a terrible NFL quarterback, but now, of course, he has a podcast. But yo, he called her the ESPN or like the sports Candace Owens, literally, and they laughed about it. It went back and forth, and throughout that interview, they keep coming back to the topic of how she is like Candace Owens, and she jumps out here and talks about some of the similarities between the two and how much she respects Candace Owens for being able to speak her mind. So I just wanted to put that piece out there because I've seen that in the comments as well.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't matter anymore. But I mean, thank you for that, because I think it further proves that she's definitely giving off that vibe. So I didn't get an opportunity to watch the whole thing, and I'm not going to. This is enough, because I did watch the full 7-minute segment when they were talking about the sexual harassment piece. And sis, first of all, I could be dressed like this and I can get sexually harassed. So you're talking about a very small number that are few and far between of women who are dressed provocatively that may be a part of lending itself into a man having inappropriate behavior. However, it doesn't matter what I have on, what I smell like, what I said, if I'm drunk, if I'm high, if I'm sober, if I'm not, it don't matter. People can be sexually harassed, sexually abused, and what have you, and none of those things are a factor. The whole point is you need to check your behavior just as much as I need to check mine. I kind of understand the point that she's going for, but she totally missed the mark. And Sage Steele has not been exempt from having controversial, being controversial or being on the other side of the spectrum. She's giving very much Black Republican, and it's ugly, and I don't like it. She's giving very much Candace Owens. She just, even when she came out, I think it was in 2016 or 2017, and she got some backlash because she said she missed her flight because people in LA were protesting Donald Trump's immigration policy. And oh my God, I missed my flight. It's like, sis, you're clearly not a part of the culture. You're big mad when somebody protests in the name of Black people and Black culture and inclusion and equality. And so I clearly see that you also don't have the backs for women as a whole. So yeah, she's I'm throwing her in the conservative trash bag. She's going down with the Stacey Dashes and the Candace Owens for me.
Yeah, she's very, very conservative values, and she says all of these things with such a straight face and so much sincerity. It's like I feel like she was making those comments as if she was dropping knowledge, and it's like, nah, that's extremely problematic. And I mean, even in other parts though, she talks about when she first started working in sports and how she would go in locker rooms and the players would say things to her like they'll give her sound bites or sound clips if she goes out to dinner with them after, and she literally just laughs it all off as if none of their advances or none of the problematic behavior is that bad. It's just like, ha ha, she's just one of the guys. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be like that. Women should have the power to step up and use their voices, especially in the workplace. And the idea that she's going to sit here and say that you dress like that, you know what you're doing. I mean, that's an extremely slippery slope. And with her conservative values, who knows what type of dressing she's even referring to. I mean, she's talking about women that work for ESPN and on SportsCenter. I mean, I've never turned on my TV and seen any of those women dressed provocatively. It seems like they're all dressed pretty formal. So like just that idea in itself is problematic. Everything she said in this interview was problematic. And, you know, a lot of people in the comments and what I hear you just saying is kind of touching on that piece, like, is she down for Black folks? And, you know, that brings up her Obama comments where she refers to herself as biracial, and Barbara Walters let her have it. So you can Google that. And she was upset about that. But in that conversation, she was asked, you know, she never allows people to call her Black. She will always correct you and say that she's biracial. So they were asking her, well, what do you put on your census? And her response was that she never fills out a census. And then they're like, well, if you had to, what would you do? And she said she would choose both Black and white, to which they said, you can't. And then they brought up Obama and the fact that he said that he claims Black on his census. And her response was, and I quote, I think it's fascinating considering his Black dad was nowhere to be found, but his white mom and grandma raised him. And it's just like, yo,
girl,
how many shots are you taking at one time? You're taking shots at Black folks. You're taking shots at Black fathers. You're discounting his whole identity based on what? And it's just, yeah, man, this was problematic. All of it from top to bottom. And none of that is what even got her in trouble with ESPN is the kicker. ESPN had a problem with her speaking out against company policy because she was pissed off that she had to get vaccinated on the day of this interview. And she talked about how sick. Yeah, she said mandates are sick and that she only got her shot because she works for a company that forced her. And she just doesn't agree with that. And that's the thing that actually got her suspended. So a lot to unpack there.
So much to unpack. I want to touch on the fact that I want to touch on the biracial thing. Okay, we live in America. Barack Obama has a white mother and a Black father. He actually has an African father from Africa, from the continent at that, okay? And then you have Obama, who has identified as a Black man for his whole life. He looks Black. He identifies as Black. He has Black skin, and he's very much giving a Black man. And I just don't understand why it's any of Steele's business on what Barack Obama, who identifies as a Black man, who is a Black man, who's 50% a Black man, why does he have to choose? Could he choose white? Because if you only have to choose one, because her ignorant ass didn't even know you only could select one. So should he have chosen white? I think that would have been a little bit more controversial. If the man wanted to tote himself around and say he was white, then everybody would be looking at him like he's crazy. So you damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But Barack Obama is a proud Black man. We appreciate him. He's still in the culture for us. And, I would like to send in a trade-in for Sage Steele. And maybe we can get somebody else. I mean, can we get Rachel Doyenthal? At least my sis wants to be around. Okay, she was the whole
not taking it
of the
NAACP.
Of the NAACP. Can we get Stacey on the way?
No.
Rachel. Come on, Rachel. I mean, we would like to trade her in real quick, fast, and in a hurry. So, interesting enough, I will say this though. I had a conversation with my brother-in-law who was here over the weekend, and he is biracial. He has a white father and a Black mother. And I don't know what made me ask him, but I asked him, how do you identify? And he was like, I say I'm biracial. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I asked him, like, so when you have to like tick a box, what box do you tick? And he said, I tick both. And I think that's great. You know what I'm saying? I think that's absolutely great. Being a super light-skinned Black woman, I'm not biracial. Both my parents are Black, and they've just high yellow in blood. Okay. And so people always want to identify me. Oh, what are you? What are you? What are you? And I'm like, I'm Black. And they're like, but you can't just be that. And I'm like, all right, well, and it's almost like people are just more accepting if I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm also Dominican. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. Or if I'm like, oh, I'm Black and white, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. But when you just like are yourself and you're like, nah, I'm a Black woman, it's just like I am what I am. People don't accept it. So I'm sorry. People should be able to identify how they want to identify, point blank, period.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's kind of sad seeing folks like Sage Steele who clearly just are confused about who they are, because no matter what she says about Obama, both of them two is Black in the eyes of America. Like, don't go get pulled over by the police tomorrow, Sage, because you're going to be Black for sure. Like, she better read up on the one drop rule. Like, I don't understand how she thinks she gets to escape this Blackness. Like, nah, this ain't how this game is played. This is America. So yeah, a lot of what she said was highly problematic, but you know, that's kind of been her thing for the last few years. I mean, she's been on the wrong side of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, she has. Do we need to take a quick break?
We do.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to chop it up in our Do It for the Culture section. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Do It for the Culture section. I would be remiss, y'all, if I did not say happy homecoming to all the homecomings coming up. All the HBCU homecomings are this week. Cuddy, our director tonight, he's going to be flying out direct to go to Hampton. Next weekend is Norfolk State. Whoop, whoop. And yeah, Howard, everybody. So I'm looking forward to seeing all your homecoming pictures and all of that on social media. I can't wait.
Hey, okay, Dora.
I love this comment, Dora. I love this show so much. When I miss the live, I feel like I'm skipping school. You are, sis, and we glad to have you, and we always appreciate your support. So look, class is back in session, honey. And Dave Chappelle has a new special. I guess his last one, apparently. Mike, take the lead on this. What's going on with Dave Chappelle?
Oh man. So like our good sis Sage Steele, yo man, Dave did a lot in this last special, man. It's rare that I feel a little nervous coming up in here like this, but trying to figure out how to talk about this as respectfully as we can. Dave Chappelle has been in a lot of hot water over this whole run of specials that he's had. And as you can see in this clip right here, in this newest one, he spoke about DaBaby and how he killed homeboy at Walmart and it didn't affect his career. Yet when he made those homophobic comments, people came to cancel him. Now, with this particular situation, DaBaby did kill that dude in self-defense. And I do think that Dave glanced over that. But I think his larger issue is looking at how Black violence gets treated versus how people who make remarks about the LGBTQ community get treated. But specifically, what I heard from Dave Chappelle and what I think a lot of people who I see talk about this seem to have missed is it's not Dave Chappelle attacking the LGBTQ community. It's not necessarily Dave Chappelle being transphobic. Although, yes, he calls himself transphobic in that special, but that's more of a crack at us as viewers as it is about his actual views. What Dave Chappelle is actually getting at here is that when you put LGBTQ folks in the space of being a marginalized community, you open the doors to allow white folks to be able to be allowed to be a part of a marginalized community. And when white folks are a part of this marginalized community, you always have to remember that at the end of the day, they're still white, and white comes first. So yes, they will step up for these LGBTQ issues, but when that seat gets hot, those white folks can always step away and still be white. And that is kind of what I want to discuss here with you, Julia, because I do think that there's something to that that's worth discussing. And when I hear that, my thoughts honestly go to like the women's suffrage movement, for example, when they were fighting for the rights of women, and those white
black women had to be in the back.
Exactly. They did not want the black women to be able to bring race as an issue. They wanted to only stick to being women. But for black women, it's impossible to separate race. What I hear from Dave Chappelle is when you're looking at the LGBTQ community, the black people in that community are always going to be black. They're always going to be marginalized. The white folks in that community have a choice. Do they want to ride for that community, or do they want to step aside and just be white people? And there's no denying the privilege that white people have in America. I'm not saying that being gay is a choice. I'm not saying that trans women aren't women. Like, that's not at all the argument that I'm saying. What I'm saying is white people are white people, and they will always be white. You can allow them into these marginalized spaces if you want, but they will always have the option to step away and live in their whiteness in a way that black people will never have an opportunity to. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you jump in here, Julia, before I get in.
You jumped on the soapbox with this one. I did not expect you to go this direction with it. Let's back up a little bit. Number one, I don't feel like Dave Chappelle is wrong for the joke. I do feel, and I will side with Santana on this, where he said that comment was off base. Dave Chappelle was off base because, yes, the baby killed 2 people in self-defense, but he also had some super ignorant comments that were extremely homophobic. And he was saying that HIV is, he was like, yeah, it ain't no gay people in here because HIV is a gay disease, which is hella ignorant, number one. And so the baby should have got all that backlash like he got. Like, you're too rich. You have too big of a platform to be saying ignorant stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a good representation of the culture. And people just have to accept that people are a part of the LGBT community, and the most people that are marginalized within that community are people that look like us. And so black trans women, black lesbians, black gay men, they don't have a space in the LGBT community that's safe for them just yet, because like you said, being white still puts you at the forefront of that movement. And so the baby is off base with that. You know what I'm saying? He was out of pocket and out of line for saying that, and he deserved all the backlash that he got. Dave Chappelle also made a good point, though. What he was just saying is, if you say something about the LGBTQ and you a celebrity, you gonna get that heat. But clearly, if you kill somebody, I guess ain't nobody really gonna say nothing. And here's why. In this situation, I feel like nobody really said anything about the baby killing those people in self-defense, because that's kind of part of his thing. Like, I almost said the N-word. That's his thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's from the street. He's from the street. So
yeah.
What do that honestly gave him more credibility that he would pull his gun out and kill somebody. You see what I'm saying? That made him more respected in the music industry, in the lane that he goes in. And so is that right? Is that wrong? I mean,
no, but I think that, like, Dave has put himself in a place where enough people hate him that a lot of people that are reacting to his stand-up, they didn't even watch it. But what he's saying, I think a better example than DaBaby, where like it was literally on film, man. Like you can't, it's self-defense. Like he was with his daughter and they tried to rob him. I think a better example that he could have honestly used would be Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez shot Meg Thee Stallion. Like he shot a black woman. He's still out
twice in both her feet.
and he's still making music. He's still going to festivals. He's still doing this. Like, you know, like that is something that you could look at and say that people will still support you, even though you're harming black folks, because, you know, that's a direct example. I think using DaBaby was kind of where he messed up. But what really made me want to go in this direction in my arguments is because of something that happened here in Seattle this year, this last summer during Pride weekend, when black and brown folks in the queer community decided to have their event called Taking Back Pride. And there's like an L with an apostrophe. So like Taking Black Pride. And their event was centered on black and brown people in the queer community, but it was open to everyone. And they asked if you were a white ally and you wanted to show up to this event, then pay $10 to $50 as a reparations fee and you could come kick it with us. The white folks that were organizing the Capitol Hill Pride events were so pissed. They wrote letters to the city and they accused them of reverse discrimination. So when I hear Dave making these points, that's what I think about. Yet when I get on Twitter, I see all of these black activists from Seattle taking all of these shots at Dave and talking about how ignorant Dave is and this and that. And what I'm saying is y'all just went through this same thing when them white folks turned their back on that black queer event, that beautiful event, actually, that Converge brought the cameras and they did their thing. So shout out to them. But that's what David's saying. And that's what y'all are missing. It's not about that. It's about the race. And to all of you people out there claiming to be down with the diversity, equity, and inclusion and all of this type of work, you should know we lead with race. All of that work is always centered on leading with race. Dave Chappelle is asking for us to lead with race. That's it. And if you missed that, then you just missed it. But that's the overall point that he's making. And I don't think it's a bad one.
Okay, well, we'll put a bow on that and move on. Thank you, Mike Davis, for your thoughts on that. And shout out to all the black queers. We love you, we respect you, and we're with you. Another story headline is Kyrie Irving. Is your boy gonna get vaccinated? The Brooklyn Nets are beginning to lose hope in their star guard, Kyrie Irving, who is vax hesitant. He is not going to be available for home games if he doesn't get vaccinated. According to ESPN, if he misses out on these games, he's missing out on $380,000 per game. The team owner Joe, I think his name is Joe Tsai, said last week that he respects Irving's personal decision, but that the superstar needs to remember the end game, and the end game is to win a championship. Mike Davis, are you going to put the ball down and lose out on $380,000 a game?
You almost made me say the N-word on the air too.
What are you doing, bro?
I ain't risking the bag, man. These guys, look, it's funny too. You know, I was just talking with Cuddy about this. You know, Kyrie Irving got long money because Andrew Wiggins, who plays for the Golden State Warriors, was on that same kick. And when they said that he wasn't going to get paid for them home games, that boy got vaccinated the next day. It wasn't even 24 hours later. He went and did that. I don't know what Kyrie is going to do, man. Kyrie's a very interesting character. You got to remember, this is the same dude that really tried to tell us that the earth is flat. I mean, he gets out here and does all of this stuff. And like, it's like, bruh, like he's trying so hard to be the smartest person in the room. I just don't really know if he really has it like that, man. But I think it's his right. It's his choice. Like, if he doesn't want to get vaxxed, then don't get vaxxed. Then lucky for him, he's a good enough player to where he might still be able to be on the team. I mean, it's going to be detrimental to that roster. But, I mean, if this is what Kyrie believes, this is what Kyrie believes, man.
Boo, Kyrie Irving. Man, Uncle Drew better go ahead and get himself together, okay? Brooks said his savings must be stacked because for real, your money got to be long if you're not even really tripping off. And I think Santana corrected me, 389,000 a game. Like your bag must be real long if you are not tripping off.
Yes.
I mean, basically, if we round that up, that's $400,000 a game. Like, where's my money at? And for real, I guarantee you that the NBA will look into that contract and see what clause they can pull him up off that and replace him for somebody who wants to get vaccinated. But I'm just shocked, surprised, and really surprised by a lot of people who are willing to lose their good-paying jobs because they don't want to get vaccinated. Now, I get it, and I respect that people don't want to be vaccinated. But me, I just can't. When I think about the bag, oh no!
I'm the same way, man. I'm not losing a penny. I'm not losing a penny over no vaccination, man. That's crazy. But Kyrie, man, shout out to you because you got enough money to stand your ground, man. It's not a lot of people do. I mean, Sage Steele also said in that interview too. She said she needed that job and she worked for ESPN. It's very few people.
Sage Steele been with ESPN for a long time. Okay, yeah. I think since like 2006, 2007.
Right. So what I think might really get to Kyrie, honestly, is his teammates because in New York he can't even go to practice. So like he can't go to practice. He can't go to home games. He's not going to be able to travel with the team. So now you have to trust Kyrie Irving to show up to road games on his own. Yo, man, that's crazy, man. I'd trade him for Ben Simmons if it was me.
I don't know who Ben Simmons is because I'm not like a huge sports buff. I'll ask Rodney who it is later. But honestly, listen, Kyrie is the quintessential Black person who's vax hesitant. Like you sit and you have conversations with them and you be like, bruh, really? That's what you think is going to happen? It's like, oh, it's the mark of the beast. It's the this. It's the that.
It's that whole tap. You got that whole tap in him.
It's a lot. But you know what? I support you, bro. I support you, Kyrie. Get it when you want to. We're going to support you. We're going to love you through it. And sorry to the Brooklyn Nets,
Hey, for real though, sorry to the Nets, but I'm not gonna lie, man. Shout out to Kyrie, man. He got that FU money. I wish I had enough money to hold my middle finger up to the man. That's what's up.
Good for him. Well, the NBA also is making some more changes outside of that vax mandate, is that they will not be randomly drug testing players this season yet again. I love this. They said that they're extending this policy through the 21 through 22 season. And Commissioner Adam Silver said, I'm sorry, what did he say? He said, we decided that given all things that were happening in society, given all the pressures and stress that players were under, that we didn't need to act as big brother right now. He said, I think society's views around marijuana has changed to a certain extent. Couldn't have said it better.
He's right on the money. He's right on the money, man. I mean, they said they're going to continue to check for PEDs or performance enhancing drugs. That's all they should check for. I don't see why they would check for anything else, especially when so many states now have legalized it, specifically places where the players play. Like it's so weird. I have no idea why the NFL chooses to die on this hill and to treat their players this way. When you look at it, literally is. And that's where I was going, because the NHL doesn't do any drug testing, and they haven't for like a decade. And like those guys be literally just using cocaine and talking about it, but they don't test for cocaine in the NHL because they don't care. Look, man, why are we policing these grown men like this, especially with weed, especially when weed is legal almost everywhere, and the places where it's not, a lot of them are on their way. I mean, this is the right thing to do, man. Cater to the players. Times are changing.
I love it. Also, Kevin Durant is taking it a step further. In August, he signed a multi-year partnership with an online marijuana marketplace called Weed Maps. And basically, he is destigmatizing cannabis and showcasing the plant's potential value for athlete wellness and recovery. So
I love it.
I love to see it. I love to see it.
Yeah, man. Black folks need to be able to get some of this money in the marijuana industry. If we could have cats like KD step up and start these companies and then start hiring other Black folks so that we could get some of that money too, man, I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. We need more real Black owned dispensaries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not like what Sean Kemp did when he tried to trick us.
That
I was
part.
so disappointed.
I'm still disappointed about that. Anyway, moving on. Givenchy is facing some backlash, y'all, for coming out on Paris Fashion Week with this noose necklace, child. This is a hotmess.com. Twitter blew up. I mean, if they didn't learn anything from Burberry, who came out with the same thing a couple years ago, why would they? I mean, do you not have no Black people on your team? Like, what's going on with the team? Like, Gucci with the black face. I mean, it's giving too much. It's giving too much. I don't know. I mean, a noose around the neck.
We got to stop supporting this, man. Like, I mean, when I read the headline too, I'm not going to lie. I thought it was clickbait. And then I seen the picture. It was like, oh, really? Like, it doesn't look like anything except the noose, man. We got to stop giving our money to these white designers. You could go down the list of all of the problematic designs that they've made that specifically targets the Black community. I don't understand like why we put them all up on this pedestal, man. We got plenty of Black designers doing their thing, man. That's really where we need to put our support. This is ridiculous. I just seen that Fashion Week too, and I'm not even going to shout out the brand because I don't remember which one it was, but yo, man, they created these sweats that make it look like you're sagging your pants. So it like looks like the boxers and then the sweat part. And it's like, man, don't be gentrifying, sagging your pants. Like, what's wrong with these
cultural
people, man?
Appropriation,
culture vultures, all of them. And so many of them just hop on Instagram and steal designs from Black designers anyway. Like, man, that be our stuff that they be taking and flipping. And stop supporting that, man. That's nonsense.
There was a photo shoot that Kourtney Kardashian did with another like really beautiful girl. Megan Fox, is that her name? Fast and the Furious. Yeah. It was a beautiful shoot, and then Drea Michelle came out and showed Black Girl Magic, and it was the same photo shoot concept, and was like, yeah, you know, we not only do we start it first, but we do it better. And so cultural appropriation is just like huge. The Kardashians are the #1 culture vultures.
Visual.
But to go back to this noose on the neck, that's not cultural appropriation, y'all. That's just straight racial insensitivity, cultural insensitivity. Like, why do you want to wear a noose? Not even just a rope, like I can't understand what happened in the room for the designer to justify that this is the new thing. You know what I'm saying? Especially because Burberry already did it a couple years ago with the noose thing for the hoodie. So like, come on, y'all. Like, get Dapper Dan, where you at, bruh? Let's get Dapper Dan in here. Look, I hope we don't have to take a break. Do we have to take a break, Cuddy, or can we roll into our last segment? Because we need these last 10 minutes. Okay, let's see if we can go.
We're good.
Boom, we're gonna keep going. Okay, y'all. So the perfect. I don't want to say the perfect whistleblower came out this week to testify to Congress about Facebook during the same week that Facebook went down, honey. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And child, I know Mike Davis with no social media didn't feel the brunt, but I was hurt. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I didn't reset my phone, deleted the app, downloaded it again. We all sent a text and it was just like, Instagram's out, WhatsApp is out, Facebook is out. And you know what? It taught me a valuable lesson that I need to back away from the feedback. So there's testimony that came out. We can play the clip. We'll come back and then we'll talk about everything as a whole. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Facebook under fire tonight.
The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people.
Whistleblower Frances Haugen insisting Congress must act against a company she says is misleading the public, promoting hateful and harmful content, holding its CEO to account.
In the end, the buck stops with Mark.
Haugen left Facebook in May armed with tens of thousands of internal documents, including some, she says, showing the company knows its Instagram app can contribute to eating disorders in teen girls, a characterization Facebook has disputed.
It's just like cigarettes. Teenagers don't have good self-regulation. They say explicitly, I feel bad when I use Instagram, and yet I can't stop. We need to protect the kids.
And to do that, Haugen says, Facebook must share more about its algorithms, which determine what content pops up on your feed, incentivized, she says, towards problematic posts.
This inability to see into Facebook's actual systems and confirm that they work as communicated is like the Department of Transportation regulating cars by only watching them drive down the highway.
Interesting. Again, I think it's the perfect storm for her. She does have a lot of credentials having worked with Pinterest and Google, and I think she even worked with Twitter. So this girl has a lot of background, and she gave a really, really, really strong and very convincing testimony. She testified for over 3 hours. And she gave them exactly what they wanted to hear. Facebook came back and they just said, this is not the Facebook that we are. This is not the picture that she's painting is not exactly who we are. And I think the only thing I will say is that when you're a company this large, you're a private company this large, it's very difficult to self-regulate. And you do need outside entities to tell you, actually, this is not working. Especially because we're talking about influence. We're not talking about, having compliance over Apple products. We're talking about compliance over people. You guys are managing influence globally. And so Facebook has a lot of global responsibility. And I do feel like there definitely has to be some oversight.
I agree with you. And a lot of what she said, she went deep. I will say though, man, I must have been the only person out here that didn't even notice that those apps went down. I had no idea, but I guess it was bad. And it looks like Zuckerberg lost $7 billion.
Yes, he
so
did.
I guess that was a thing. But I think some of the stuff that she said though did jump out at me. I know a lot of people understand the algorithms and they already know that stuff, but she leaked 10,000 pages worth of documents. And I just have some notes here about some of the stuff that she leaked that people may not have known. She leaked a study in the UK that showed that 13.5% of teen girls had more frequent suicidal thoughts after they used Instagram. 17% of teen girls say that eating disorders get worse after using Instagram. And 32% of girls who feel bad about their bodies say that they feel worse after using Instagram. She also pointed out the fact that Facebook makes it so that you have to say that you're 13 to get an account, yet Facebook aggressively targets users with their algorithms and with their advertisements. They actively go after users who are under 13. So there's a lot of stuff that they're doing. And I think that stuff that jumps out at me is the stuff that revolves around our kids. This lady, man, look, like you said, she's worked in the tech industry. She's done a lot of work. She's made a lot of cheese. She also has a team of lawyers, man. They filed 8 different complaints against Facebook that range with a lot of stuff. But some of those pieces that kind of jumped out to me was the January 6th insurrection, where, Facebook had a lot of information that they could have given to the government to try to prevent this, yet they chose not to. There's a lot of things that they see about international governments and things overseas that they could report to stop harm, to stop damage, to stop violence. They choose not to. So there's a lot of things that Facebook can do that they're not doing. And her overall point is, they're choosing to promote hate. They're choosing to promote misinformation because that's what makes people click. And that's what makes people stay. And they're choosing financial gain over morals. So this is a lot, and this is big. And yeah, on the surface level, I think we realize some of this stuff, but we really need to look deeper and look at how this is affecting our kids and the next generation coming up. And there has to be some sort of regulation to stop the way that they're doing business. It seems predatory.
Lots of good points there. And again, I really encourage everybody to watch her testimony. It was a lot of gems dropped in there, but a lot of stuff we already knew, right? Like we never really understood fully what the algorithm is on Facebook or on Instagram. We don't know why we're being served the content that we're being served. We do know that if we're sitting here talking about something, we're going to be served an ad when we turn on our phone, and it's going to be there. If we type something in, we're going to see that ad served to us on Facebook and what have you. The search terms are going to bring in different things that we want to see. I hate that because it brings in content that's not necessarily genuine. And I would like to see, and we talked about this, months and months back when we were talking about politics, is that I want to see both sides of the argument. And oftentimes when you're being served content that you're looking for, you never get the full scope and you never get the full picture. When we talk about our kids, social media is very toxic, and we do need to regulate our kids, our teenagers, for real, for real. I mean, I just cannot imagine being in middle school or high school with social media. I mean, I know we had MySpace for a little bit, and that was even a thing. Remember when you felt some type of way because you wasn't in somebody's top 8? And then they made the top 16 like that. I mean, and that was small. And now the magnitude of social media, that not only can you get bullied and picked on in school, but that joint comes home with you and is right here until you go to bed. And so, you're feeling some type of way because you don't look as good in your filters. You're seeing all these beautiful Instagram girls who are totally filtered, edited, and girls younger and younger want to get plastic surgery. And so it's not good. Social media is not good for your mental health when it's consumed a little bit too much. But I love social media so much. I'm like one of the first people, I think, to really be involved in it and to push the game and push social media marketing. So I understand the dangers, but I also understand the great way it has helped to communicate. So I'm always going to support social media. I'm always going to support Facebook, but I'm totally down for some more compliance. Also, please check out, you guys, shameless plug, Social Dilemma on Netflix. It totally explains everything that's on here. Mike, I think you mentioned it. Thank you, Miss Lockridge, for telling me about, reminding me. But watch Social Dilemma. It's all the stuff we already know. I even made it a point, like today, I was looking crazy and feeling crazy. And I was like, I need to do a transparency post with no makeup, no hair, no eyebrows, no lashes, and just be myself so people can know, like, yeah, I'm not this all the time. Like, I'm a regular person that just is regular all the time. And people only post the good on social media, and we need to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we could talk about this all night, but we don't have time. That is our time. That's our time.
That was a good one. Real fast though, Darnell mentioned that Facebook needs to be broken up. It might be on its way. I mean, both sides of the aisle are on board with breaking up Facebook. I think that this even pushes it a little bit more, but like it's actually become a bipartisan issue. You got Republicans and Democrats that are giving that rhetoric. But yeah, you're right. That's the show. It was a good one. We appreciate y'all kicking it with us. I know the Seahawks is playing right now, so big shout out to everybody that here was rocking with us. Don't put the score in the chat, please, because I'm recording it. But yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Yes. So Mike Davis, when you're not here, where can they find you?
You can find me at the South Seattle Emerald. Anywhere you find the Emerald, you will find me. Shout out to my bro, Marcus Harrison Green. He's doing an event for his new book tonight, man. Check that out, y'all.
All right, y'all. And I'm your co-host, Jules Jessie. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Treasure of JULES. And that's our show. Thank you for tuning in again to Clapback Culture. We'll see you next week.
Peace.